from this wedding. You'll ruin everything." Her words were sharp, meant to cut, and the way she leaned in, chin high, lips curled, made it sting even more. My sister, Olivia, stood in front of the wide double doors of the reception hall, her hand gripping the edge of my arm like she had ownership of me. Behind her, laughter and music spilled out, violins blending with champagne glasses clinking. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I froze, fingers tightening around the clutch in my hand. "Excuse me?" My voice was calm, too calm for how my chest throbbed. Olivia's smile widened, fake and cruel, the same one she wore whenever relatives came around. "Don't play dumb, Madison. You know exactly why you shouldn't be here. Look at you. That dress, cheap. That hair, messy. You've embarrassed this family enough. Today is my day, not yours. So go. Before I have to ask security to escort you out." For a second, all I could hear was my own pulse. She wanted me humiliated. Again. She wanted to bury me in front of everyone, just like she always had, calling me the disappointment, the broke one, the mistake. But instead of snapping, I smiled, slowly, coldly. I smoothed my dress with deliberate grace and whispered, "You should have picked different words, Olivia." Then, without raising my voice, I added, "Good luck pretending I was never here." I pivoted, heels clicking against marble, and walked straight out of the hall. Gasps followed me. Relatives exchanged looks, some smirking, some whispering. My mother glanced away, embarrassed, pretending she didn't even recognize me. My father chuckled under his breath like this was all a joke. The night air outside was sharp, cutting against my skin as I stepped into the courtyard. String lights flickered above me. The laughter inside muffled when the doors closed, leaving me in silence. My chest ached, but my pride stayed intact. 10 minutes later, the silence was shattered. "Where is Madison?" The voice boomed from inside the hall, deep, uncompromising. It was Grandpa. The music stopped. Conversations broke mid-sentence. The clatter of silverware halted. "Sir, she—" Olivia's voice tried to carry over the crowd, but he cut her. "Off like thunder splitting the sky. I asked where my granddaughter is. Bring her here. Now." Every head turned toward the doors. Inside, tension rippled. Olivia stammered something, her face pale. Mom tried to smile like everything was fine, but Grandpa's hand slammed the table. "I will not continue. Not another toast. Not another speech. Not another blessing. Until Madison returns." The guests shifted uncomfortably. The groom's family whispered. Someone stood, ready to go look for me, and then the doors opened again. I walked back inside, the sound of my heels echoing against the polished floor. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't lower. The entire room seemed to shrink around me, every pair of eyes locked on the girl who had just been told to leave and was now being summoned back like she was the most important person in the room. Olivia's face turned the color of ash. Grandpa rose to his feet, tall and commanding, his cane striking against the wooden floor, his piercing blue eyes locked onto me as if no one else mattered. "There you are," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Come here, Madison." For a moment, silence thickened, suffocating. My parents exchanged uneasy looks. Olivia fidgeted with her bouquet, her lips trembling. I stepped forward, each stride slow, deliberate, until I stood beside him. Grandpa took my hand in his, firm and protective. He faced the crowd. This wedding does not move forward without her. Gasps. Whispers. Shock. I could feel Olivia's rage radiating across the room, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. A heavy silence settled over the hall, broken only by the clink of Grandpa's cane as he leaned forward. His voice carried with the weight of a man who had built empires and crushed silence in boardrooms. "This wedding does not move forward without Madison," he repeated, eyes sweeping across every face in the room. No one dared breathe. Olivia forced a laugh, though it cracked halfway out. "Grandpa, you don't have to make a scene. She was just leaving. It's better this way." Grandpa turned his head slowly, his gaze slicing through her composure. "Better for who, Olivia? For you?" Olivia's lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked around desperately for backup. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair, tugging at her pearl necklace, while Dad cleared his throat and muttered, "Let's not turn this into drama." Grandpa's cane slammed against the floor. The sound thundered like a gavel in a courtroom. "This family has lived on lies long enough. Tonight, the truth stands." A murmur swept through the guests. The groom's parents exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure what kind of storm they had walked into. Grandpa tightened his grip on my hand, pulling me closer. "Madison is my granddaughter. She is blood. She is family. And she is the one who carries my legacy, not the ones who mock her." Every eye snapped back to Olivia, her face drained of color. "Grandpa," Olivia tried again, her voice trembling. "This isn't fair. You can't—" "Fair?" Grandpa's tone turned sharp, almost cutting. "You stood at those doors and told your own sister she wasn't good enough to be here. You humiliated her, in front of everyone, on what was supposed to be your happiest day. Tell me, Olivia, what exactly are you afraid of? That Madison will outshine you without even trying?" The words hit like arrows. Gasps spread across the room. I could feel the weight of everyone's stares, but for once, they weren't looking at me with pity, they were looking at her. She, Olivia stuttered, her hands gripping her bouquet so tightly petals snapped and scattered onto the floor. Grandpa wasn't done. He turned to the crowd, his voice steady but fierce. "You all laugh at her, whisper behind her back, call her weak, broke, a mistake. But let me make something clear. Without Madison, none of this." He gestured at the chandelier-lit hall, the lavish tables, the very roof above us, would even exist. The hall erupted into a low roar of confusion. My heart hammered in my chest. Even I didn't know what he meant. I blinked, staring at him, but his grip only tightened. "Grandpa." "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my throat dry. He looked down at me, his sternness softening only for me. "You'll know soon, sweetheart. Tonight everyone will." Olivia's eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. "Grandpa, please don't what?" he snapped. "Don't tell them the truth you've buried under your pride? Don't expose what you and your parents tried to keep hidden?" Dad shot up from his chair, red in the face. "That's enough." His voice cracked with fury. "This is a wedding, not a courtroom. If you have something to say it in private." Grandpa didn't even glance at him. "Sit down, Robert. You've done enough damage as a father." The room went deathly still. My father's jaw clenched, but the weight of Grandpa's authority forced him back into his seat. I stood frozen, my breath catching. My sister's wedding dress sparkled under the lights, but her face was collapsing, makeup unable to cover the cracks of fear crawling up her expression. Grandpa raised his glass of untouched champagne and set it down with finality. "This marriage, this family, this night, nothing continues until Madison's place here is acknowledged. She is not an afterthought. She is not disposable. She is the one who deserves respect, more than anyone else in this room." The words echoed, bouncing off the crystal walls of the hall. I swallowed hard, my lips trembling as I finally found my voice. "Why, Grandpa? Why me?" His eyes softened, but only slightly, Because, Madison, you've been the only one who hasn't asked for anything, and yet everything that matters belongs to you. The hall gasped again, louder this time. Olivia staggered back a step, her grip loosening on the bouquet until it hit the floor with a dull thud. Her mouth opened, but no sound escaped. I stood there, my world spinning as the whispers surged like a storm. Questions, disbelief, jealousy, shock. Grandpa leaned closer, his words low, meant only for me. Let them wait. Tonight isn't Olivia's victory, it's yours. And with that, he sat back down, crossing his arms, refusing to speak again until the silence became unbearable. All eyes turned to me. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the shadow in the corner. I was the center of the storm. The silence dragged, suffocating, until Olivia finally broke it. Her voice trembled, desperation bleeding through. Grandpa, please. You can't embarrass me like this. Not today. Everyone's here for me. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life. He tilted his head, eyes narrowing. Happiest? Happiness built on lies isn't happiness, Olivia. It's poison. And it rots everything it touches. Gasps rippled across the room. The groom's mother shifted uncomfortably, whispering to her husband. The air was heavy, every guest leaning forward like the next words could set the entire hall on fire. My throat tightened, my palms clammy. I didn't know what Grandpa meant, but part of me was terrified to find out. Dad shot forward in his chair, jaw tight. Dad, enough. You don't need to drag family business into a wedding. Let Olivia have her night. If Madison wants attention, she can— Attention? Grandpa's cane slammed the ground again, his voice thunderous. Madison never asked for attention. You and your wife treated her like she was invisible, like she was a burden you regretted. Yet she's the only one who ever visited me without asking for money. The only one who cared if I ate, if I took my medicine, if I was still breathing. The words pierced through me, my chest tightening. I blinked rapidly, fighting back the sting of tears. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line, her face cold. We didn't ignore her. We just knew she'd never amount to much. Not like Olivia. The guests gasped again. Even the groom's face hardened with disbelief, glancing at the woman he was about to marry. Grandpa stood, his chair scraping back with force. His tall frame towered, his hand still gripping my shoulder like a shield. Then let me make this clear to every single person in this room. His voice dropped, slow and deliberate, the kind of tone that made grown men shiver. The inheritance. The business, the estate, every single thing with my name on it, it belongs to Madison. The room exploded in shock. Cries of disbelief, glasses rattling, people whispering frantically. Olivia's face drained of all color, her hands trembling. So violently the bouquet slipped fully from her grasp. No, no, she screamed, her voice shrill. That's not true. Tell them you're joking. Tell them you didn't mean it. Grandpa didn't flinch. It's been signed for months. The documents are with my attorney. You were too busy chasing appearances. Olivia, while Madison was the only one who remembered I was human. Olivia stumbled back, nearly tripping on her dress, her eyes darting wildly between her parents. Mom? Dad? Do something! But for once they were silent. Dad's face was stone humiliated. Mom's nails dug into her own palms, but she couldn't form words. I stood frozen, my heart pounding against my ribs. Grandpa, I don't understand. He looked down at me, softer now, though his voice still carried. You don't need to understand tonight, sweetheart. Just know this. Your worth was never theirs to define. Not their insults, not their rejection. You are mine. And that means everything they tried to take from you, it comes back tenfold. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. The crowd watched in stunned silence, Some guests whispered apologies under their breath, realizing how they'd treated me. Others sat rigid, unsure what to do. But Olivia's breathing turned ragged, her shoulders heaving as she tried to hold her composure. Finally, she hissed through clenched teeth, "You've ruined me. On my wedding day, you've ruined everything." And I, for the first time, raised my head high. "No, Olivia, you ruined yourself." The hall erupted, not with music, not with laughter, but with the sound of truth finally cutting through the lies. Olivia's words echoed like broken glass across the hall. "You've ruined me." She stood trembling, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her white gown looking more like a costume than a crown. Her groom stared at her with wide eyes, the weight of what he'd just heard pressing down like a boulder. "Olivia," he whispered, his voice heavy with doubt. "Is it true? You knew?" Her chest heaved. No, I didn't. He's lying. Grandpa's just trying to humiliate me." But her voice cracked, betraying her. The groom's parents rose from their table, their faces stiff, whispers passing between them. The whispers weren't kind. They weren't about flowers or music anymore. They were about Olivia, about deception, about how quickly a perfect facade had shattered. Grandpa didn't move. He stood there with his hand firm on my shoulder, the very image of authority. "I don't need to humiliate you, Olivia. You did that all on your own." Gasps surged through the crowd again. Guests shifted in their seats, some refusing to meet. Her eyes, others whispering like wildfire. Mom finally stood, her voice sharp. "Enough of this nonsense. This is Olivia's wedding day. She deserves respect." Grandpa turned his gaze to her, icy, piercing. "Respect is earned, Evelyn, and you taught her none of it. You raised her to sneer, to mock, to believe she was above her own sister. Tonight is the harvest of what you planted." Mom froze, her jaw clenching, but she couldn't find words. Olivia stumbled forward, her bouquet crushed in her trembling hand. "Please, Grandpa, please, don't do this to me. You can't just give everything to her. I'm your granddaughter, too." Grandpa's voice dropped low, deliberate. "You are my granddaughter. But when you used your position to belittle Madison, when you pushed her aside to protect your pride, you forfeited more than you realize." Olivia's breath hitched. She turned, desperately scanning the crowd for support. But all she found were cold stares and whispers that grew louder by the second. The groom finally stepped back from her, his face pale. "I don't know if I can marry someone who hides things like this. If you could treat your own sister this way, what else have you been hiding from me?" Her scream tore through the air. "No, don't say that. You love me." But his silence was an answer. I felt my throat tighten, every nerve buzzing. For years I'd been the shadow, the outcast, the forgotten one. And now, right here, in front of everyone, truth had finally dragged Olivia's glittering mask off her face. I swallowed. Hard, my voice trembling but firm. "Olivia, you told me I'd ruin everything by being here. But the truth? You didn't need me to ruin it. You did that yourself, by underestimating me." The hall erupted again, some gasps, some claps, some stunned silence. Grandpa raised his glass one final time. This night isn't about who shines the brightest dress or smiles for the loudest applause. It's about truth. And the truth is this: Madison has more grace, more strength, and more heart than any of you ever gave her credit for. He placed the glass down and added firmly, "If you cannot honor her, then you don't honor me." The line landed like thunder. Olivia sank into her chair, her sobs breaking through the musicless air. Mom turned her face away, humiliated. Dad stared at the floor, silent for once in his life. And me? For the first time ever, I didn't feel invisible. I felt powerful. I stood taller, my shoulders back, my chin high. No apology, no shame. Just the weight of every scar, every insult, every rejection, turning into steel inside me. I looked at Olivia one last time, my voice quiet but sharp as glass. You wanted me gone, but tonight, I was the one thing you couldn't erase. The violinist, uncertain but obedient, began to play again. Conversations restarted in hushed tones. The wedding continued, but nothing was the same. And as I stood there with Grandpa at my side, I finally understood.